your energy and Ascension forecast for Sunday, April 16th to Saturday, April 22nd. So last week we did have Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, communication, how it is that we express ourselves, move into the pre-retrograde area, that retro shade area, if you will. Of course, we just had Mercury move into Taurus energy on April 3rd, and on April 7th, we essentially drugged Mr. Mercury. He's feeling the effects. He's starting to get dizzy, a little bit groggy, moving into an altered state. And of course, as we grow towards the 21st, when he actually goes retrograde, we will see more and more miscommunications, misunderstandings, malfunctions with vehicles, with communication, with technology. And the more the mental plane shuts down, the more our higher selves, our intuition, ramps up. That is the whole point of a Mercury retrograde, trying to give us time to kind of reflect, see where it is that we haven't been present. We haven't had time to integrate the changes, the transformations that we've made. And therefore, we need to shut down the intellect. We need to turn the volume all the way up on our intuition so that we can kind of sort through what is working, what isn't, see things from a different set of eyes, rework a couple of things, and of course, by the end of it, be in a totally different alignment with our energy, with our mission, with our purpose. We have a lot going on, though, in between those particular times, so it's going to be a very interesting ride. Of course, we had Venus step out of her place of power, really hand over the throne, if you will, because she left Taurus energy for Gemini energy. That took place on the 11th. So you may have noticed that things are a little bit more curious. We are definitely recognizing where we're bored, where we're discontent in life. We're recognizing where old interests, old affections, old relationships no longer really are doing it for us, and we're really starting to question what it is we want to do now. We're in an experimental stage of figuring out what brings us safety, security, stability, what creates happiness, joy, pleasure within. And of course, we're operating from the mental plane, which is a great thing because it means that we're kind of processing information and our current circumstances in a different way. However, Gemini energy, very polarizing, very, very dualistic. And for many of us, we are definitely feeling that push and pull, that ebb and flow, that back and forth. And of course, Mars being in Cancer energy, definitely intensifying those particular waves. Of course, we just had the last quarter moon take place in Capricorn energy on the 13th. This kind of concluded the last hurrah, if you will, of closing out this particular lunar cycle. Many of us kind of feeling the weight, feeling the pressure, if you will. We have new roles and responsibilities that we are karmically moving into. And of course, this last quarter moon highlights for us where it is we kind of have to wrap up the old in order to prepare for the new. Many of us had some emotional breakdowns, which of course created a little bit of an emotional breakthrough. And for good reason, we are now officially in eclipse energy. And I don't know if you kind of feel like you've done a whole lot of emotional and energetic and mental processing over the past week, but we are all at a different level, different vibration, different frequency than we were coming into the week. And much of that is contributed to the 4 very intense moon days that we had, really helping us to emotionally refine where it is that we're at and set our sights on how it is that we want to move forward instead of clinging to the past. So what do we got going on this week? Well, we're going to wrap up the last final days of Aries season. We have a very powerful week coming at us. Of course, if you've listened to the April energy forecast, there should be no surprises here. If you've downloaded your Aries season e-guide, you should be up to snuff. up to really being aware of what this week is going to provide for you. And of course, listening to your zodiac forecast will give you all the ins and outs on where this is actually going to be taking place in your realm. What am I talking about? Well, we're moving into eclipse season. We're moving into retrograde season. We have this new moon solar eclipse taking place at 29 degrees, a critical crisis degree in Aries energy. For most of us, this will be on the 20th. For a select few, this will be on the 19th, just because of where it is that you live and the time zones that you're at. But we need to back up and understand that this is our second new moon in Aries, but our very first new moon in Aries that is opening up this eclipse energy. This is the first taste of the particular life lessons that we will be learning over the next year and a half. Of course, we are kind of at the beginning of the end of the Taurus and Scorpio life lessons that we've been just overwhelmed with for the last year and a half. Again, reminder, this is about death, rebirth, give, take, destruction, creation, and really letting go of a lot of the shadow elements in order for us to create a space to really up our self-love, self-worth, self-value, really create a space for us to grow something new in the place of the old that had to be removed. So, of course, I have a whole lot of information on what this eclipse energy is going to be, on what this eclipse season is going to mean. You can take a listen to the 2023 energy forecast. I think it's part 2 that we're into for this whole yearly rundown. And of course, over on my Patreon, we kind of touched on these particular axis, the Libra and Aries axis that we're about to move into with these eclipse energies. And of course, having the true nodes of the moon actually shift permanently into that axis in July. We kind of covered that with the full moon in Libra exploration of charts that we did. And of course, I will have a whole eclipse special kind of prepared, ready to go to explore what these next few years are going to be about. And of course, you can find that on my Patreon, be probably dropping in the beginning of the week. Now, here's the interesting thing. We have the new moon, solar eclipse. Again, solar eclipse tends to add something to our lives. And we're at the mercy of the universe. This is wild card energy. We don't have a whole lot of control over manifesting. Basically, the universe is going to put us on the path that we failed to put ourselves, going to sort ourselves out where we failed to basically sort ourselves out. The universe is about to do that for us. And only hours, okay, we're talking hours after this new moon eclipse energy peaks, we're going to have the sun move out of Aries season, move into Taurus season. Now, starting Taurus season under the peak energy of an eclipse, this is definitely going to be a wild observation how Taurus season is going to go for us. And in case you haven't noticed, this was not the typical Aries season that we are used to. Nothing is going to be typical or usual from here on out. Why is that, you may ask? I'm having a hard time with my communication. If you haven't really noticed as of yet, Mercury is already kind of messing with my tongue. However, we're going to push through it. Why is that, you may ask? Well, it's because we haven't been this far in the human experiment. We have never been under these energies before. And this is a very interesting dynamic that many of us are really just having to figure out as we're moving through it. Taurus season is going to be super interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, Taurus season is usually the time where we build something new, where we create something new, where we bring something new to life. Again, based off of the ideas, the passion, the desire, the excitement that should have been initiated under Aries season. We also kind of focus on maintaining what is working for us and resisting the change that we know we have to make in Taurus season. But what's going to make it even more interesting this time around is that Pluto is in that Aquarian energy, a sister fixed sign to Taurus. And so, through the sun in Taurus, we have Mercury in Taurus, going to go retrograde in Taurus energy. We already have Uranus in Taurus energy. And so all of this Taurus energy is definitely going to create a clash, a little bit of a conflict there with Pluto, the great transformer, who is in this Aquarian energy, trying to kind of demolish and destroy the old structures in which we've been operating in order for us to progress and improve to new levels of awareness. So it is definitely going to be interesting to see how these fixed signs kind of clash together, both being very resistant to change, but ultimately knowing that change is the only thing we can count on. So that is going to be an interesting dynamic. And as if that wasn't interesting enough, just hours after the eclipse, when the sun moves into Taurus season, and just hours after the sun moves into Taurus season, we're going to have Mercury go retrograde in this Taurus energy. So that kind of kicks off on the 21st. So it's like a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, here in the middle of the week. Well, towards the end of the week, I guess. And the energy is going to be highly unpredictable. So we have to kind of be open and aware and expect the unexpected and just kind of pay attention to what's going on. And of course, using the prompts in that Aries season e-guide will definitely kind of lean you into recognizing the lessons that you are supposed to be learning. And of course, you can find that particular lesson in your own birth chart. And if you need assistance on that, I have some videos here on YouTube as well. You can jump over to my Patreon where we have Astro Class, and you can kind of float through all of those instructional videos and sort yourself out. So that is the astrology for the week. Before we jump into the Ascension symptoms, I have a little bit of a homework task that I'd like to complete as always. So first of all, I just want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for the likes, for the shares, for the comments. I want to thank you for all of it. I also want to thank you for last week's feedback, for your love, for your support there. I know many of you tuned in last week. Definitely recognize that I was not at my normal vibration, my normal attitude, my normal self. Of course, the duration of last week's Ascension forecast was much shorter than normal. I did kind of take a little bit of heat for that as well. Now, overall, the love and support and encouragement that you all give me every single day, top notch, okay? So I am not discounting that at all. And yes, I did open the dialogue for feedback on what I should be doing differently, what people want, what people need, everybody's perspectives. And I think it's so funny. The minute that you ask for people to give you feedback, suddenly you get just overwhelmed. Everybody thinks that they know exactly what you should be doing. And it is so funny to me to sit back and read all the comments and the emails and the DMs that I get, because equally, straight down the line, I had people say, your videos are too long. You talk too much. Just condense it. Keep it short. And then on the other side of the spectrum, I had people say, I love listening to you. An hour doesn't seem enough. I, want to dive into anything that you have to say. Keep it up. Expand the videos. We're here. We want to listen, which is really great. But the dualistic and polarized nature of that, Gemini energy, Venus and Gemini for sure. I also had people say, well, maybe you should be taking your videos and taking the transcript and putting it into Word. And then I had other people say, no, just focus on your videos. We want to actually see you. Maybe you should do live. So then you have that contrast there of people saying, no, I'd rather read about it instead of listen to it. And then you had other people say, no, I'd rather watch you talk about it instead of just listening to your voice. So the dynamics of it, I appreciate every perspective. I appreciate all recommendations, all suggestions. Trust me, I do, or else I wouldn't have asked for it. I just think of how it's super interesting, how I'm no further ahead, because I literally have the same amount of people pushing for one thing and then the same amount of people pushing for the other thing. And at the end of the day, what do you realize? You realize you can't make everybody happy. You realize you got to do you. You got to realize that you just have to kind of do what feels right and go with the flow. And another thing that I wanted to kind of touch on, I often have people ask me like when I'm going to do lives, or when I'm going to, when people are actually going to see my face and hear me talk. And let me just say, although, never say never, probably never. Here's the thing, guys. The message, the words that I have, the frequency of my voice, it's supposed to be acting as a catalyst to trigger and activate something in you. And this isn't about me. I don't want to be a personality that people are interested in. I don't want to be seen. Okay, I have a hard enough time being heard. I definitely don't want to be seen. And sometimes what happens is that, if I were to get on a live video and talk about these normal energy shifts, you disconnect from listening to my voice, you disconnect from the message, you disconnect from the information. What happens is you become more present in the here and now, which isn't a bad thing, except then you start perceiving from your egoic self. You're looking at me, you're checking in the background, you're trying to, pick details out from the background or from the way that I speak or the way that I hold myself. And suddenly we're totally missing the whole purpose of why I do this, which is to deliver the information, which is to be a sound, a vibration, a frequency that carries unconscious triggers within my words, within my sounds, within my message. So as flattered as I may be for all y'all being so interested in my life and wanting to see, me, full stop, full person, like that is very nice. However, likely will never happen. And, just not something that I think is going to do anything for me. I'm not here to, let me just say this. I never wanted to be a content creator. I'm not on YouTube trying to push for numbers. I'm not on YouTube trying to push for likes. And you may say, well, you complain a lot for someone, about your numbers and about your likes. The only reason why I get concerned about my numbers being down is because we're going through a very pivotal point in time of our consciousness experiment right now. And when I have low numbers, when I have low engagement, when the algorithm isn't pushing my videos in front of the people that need to hear it, I get upset because I'm here to speak about a message. I'm here with very, very important information. And it's very disheartening to me that my energy, my message, my words, the info, not getting in front of the people that absolutely need it. So I'm not looking to have this YouTube channel that, is all about the subscribers and hitting these milestones and stuff like that. I also don't want to be a public figure or a content personality. I'm here to do a job. This job is a calling, and it's not something that I chose for myself. That was something that was chosen for me. And, as you witnessed this time last week, I had a bad day at work. I wanted to quit. Most of the time I do want to quit. And that is no different than you going to your job and not wanting to be there and not feeling like, you want to do this anymore and constantly contemplating going in and telling your boss off and quitting. I go through the same thing. It's just I have a different boss than you do. I have a different job description than you do. Not even close to being more important or less important than whatever it is that you do in the run of your day. But this is a job. And, you have good days, you have bad days. And most of the days, whether they're good or not, you're still contemplating what it is that you want to do when you grow up. So I just wanted to address that fact because you all are just so loving and supporting and encouraging. And the fact that you even want to see my face or know about me or know about my life, again, super flattering. Love that. But that's not what my mission is. That is not what the purpose is. That is not why I do what I do. The activator is the frequency in my voice. And, for those of you who know my story and know about the quote unquote near death experience that had me dead for over 4 minutes, when I woke up, I could not speak. I had to learn how to speak again. They stripped my vocal cords trying to intubate me. So my voice, I struggled with my voice for a reason because it is my greatest asset. They, and I say they as like the universal, guides or divine script writers or whoever you want to suggest that they actually are, they have created this situation with my voice because my voice carries a vibration and a frequency that should resonate with you. And obviously it does, or else you wouldn't tune into me all the time. And I think that adding the visual, adding, me as a person into the mix is taking away from that vibration and frequency, taking away from the subliminal and unconscious, triggering and activating. And I don't know, I feel like it would be taking away a lot. So for those of you that continue to ask me when it is that I will be doing live sessions, I am sorry to disappoint you, but the answer is likely never. There is another thing that I want to talk about that I really wasn't aware of until somebody brought it to my attention, and I thank you so much for doing so. It was a wonderful subscriber that is actually located over in Israel. I had no idea that I even had people listening and tuning in from that area of the world. So if you're in that area of the world, I thank you so much. I had no idea that I even, existed at that particular point in the map. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I had this individual talk about how confusing it is for them sometimes to be listening to my forecasts and having to do the translation as far as time zones go. Obviously, Israel, Australia, that side of the world, they're living in the future compared to us over here in the Western part, North America, should I say. They're pretty much like a whole day ahead. They're living in the future. So I can understand why it would be a little bit complicated for them to listen to me rattle off the times in which, most transits are happening and having to do the time conversion. One of the things that, first of all, I do all of my reports in Eastern Standard Time, and I don't even live in an Eastern Standard Time zone, okay? I live in Atlantic Standard Time. I'm on the East Coast of Canada, but I do my reports in Eastern Standard Time because that's where the majority of my listeners, the time zone in which they're in. It's the easiest time zone that I think people can use to convert. But one of the reasons why they brought the time zone thing up is because, most of the time I post my videos here on YouTube a day ahead, a day in advance. And what I guess I didn't realize that people didn't know is that you can access days ahead of the forecast for the week by subscribing to the playlist for the week. So usually there's 2-3 days ahead for the energy forecasts that don't go public. They're unlisted unless you go in and actually look at that playlist. And so for people that are living in a totally different time zone, like these amazing souls in Israel, and I know I have a lot of Australian people as well, that you're all living in the future, I can't really help you with the time conversion of, when I say the moon is doing such and such at such a time in Eastern Standard Time. You'll still have to do those conversions, but by no means should you be limited in only receiving the public knowledge videos that get posted a day ahead, which technically is the day of for you guys. You can go to the playlist and subscribe to the playlist and watch all the days of the week prior to them even happening, prior to the videos going public. I do these forecasts like a week in advance. So as I'm creating the videos, I put them up. And so I would really welcome that if you're kind of being messed with the time zone, or you want to kind of, jump a little bit further into the week than just the day ahead, please jump over, subscribe to the playlist, dive in as far as you possibly can. There will always be multiple days and multiple videos there for your listening pleasure. So I want to thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. I had no clue that that was even an issue, and I had no clue that people weren't really aware that you could subscribe to the playlist and get the unlisted videos before they go public. So there is that. I also want to thank y'all for those of you who jumped over to my Patreon, showing me love and support over there. I hope y'all enjoyed this week's astro class where we talked about chart patterns in your birth chart. So in this astro class, a lot of people have said, even though I'm just scratching the surface with the basics, that it's, astrology is overwhelming and it's a lot to remember and it's very complicated. So this week we kind of took the astrology aspect out of it and just kind of focused on chart patterns. It has nothing to do with the planets or with the energies. It literally is just looking at your chart and seeing where the planets are dispersed and the personalities and the traits and the aim and the projects and the goals and the vision that you can kind of pick out of just understanding how the planets being dispersed in your chart and the pattern that they actually make, there's 7 patterns, what that would actually mean. So got a lot of great feedback from that. I'm super glad that that kind of opened some of you up to exploring chart patterns that many of you said you didn't even know about, you've never even heard of before. So that's super exciting. Definitely encourage any of you that are kind of interested in astrology and hacking your chart and not really having to become an astrologer in order to understand it. I really encourage you to jump over to Patreon. I am working on being able to offer everything that I offer, not only on Patreon with the highest tier, that will be including all of the zodiac forecasts, the e-guides that I'm creating now for each of the seasons and all the moon guides, but I'm making that available on my website as well, because I know a lot of people are hesitant to sign up to Patreon for one reason or another. I get a lot of messages saying, hey, I'd love to come over and support you, but I don't want to go on Patreon. Is there another way? And I don't really know why you would be hesitant for Patreon. But again, it comes back to the fact that I'm realizing that you just cannot make everyone happy. But I am definitely working on being able to have that available over the weekend. Of course, the Taurus season e-guide will be available here very shortly. The moon guide for this eclipse season that we're moving into will be available over the weekend as well. And when those two are launched, we should be able, well, I say we, it's just me. I should be able to get those 2 subscription options up and running for those of you that are interested. So you'll be able to kind of subscribe to all the things on Patreon and find all of those things equally off of my website as well. So hopefully that is exciting. Hopefully Mercury's retrograde doesn't mess with my technology, and hopefully I'm able to bring that full circle and bring it live. So I think that is all the homework that I wanted to cover. Let's talk about the Ascension symptoms for this week. So this, obviously, we've been talking about how time has been altered. We know from the Schumann Resonance that, we're missing chunks of time, chunks of days, that the energy has now reached a quote unquote new norm. And that basically we are entering into what we call the bridge. And the bridge is an energetic arc or bridge, for better sense of the word, that allows us to kind of leave the old dimensional, vibrational, frequency, reality state behind and shift into a new circumstance, a new reality, a new version of our lives. Now, eclipse energy definitely provides us with that extra oomph, that extra push. Many people think that eclipse season is something to fear, something that is damaging and destructive. Not the case. You should not fear it at all. I think a lot of people get that taste in their mouth because a lot of wild card energy, just wild events happen, and a lot of quote unquote loss happens. And I say quote, end quote, because loss is never a loss. This is something that many people are experiencing and confused about right now. Loss is never a loss. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, if there are elements in your life that are falling apart and falling away from you, it's because they weren't meant to be in your life anymore. It means that you reached a vibration, a frequency, a state of consciousness and awareness that those particular elements no longer serve you. So if a relationship that you've been in for a while is falling apart, it means that that soul contract has reached a completion point, that this person is no longer in alignment with your vibration and frequency and therefore has no want, need, or desire to continue to stick around. Why would they? If you are seeing that, a job that you've been in for a very long time, you get fired or you get laid off or, for whatever reason, a lot of people are realizing right now that they no longer like doing what it is that they've been doing for the last 10 years plus. That's okay. That's a shift. That means that you are growing. That means that your vibration and frequency and your state of awareness and consciousness is rising, pushing you into new meaning, new purpose. Let it go. Now, again, here's a touchy subject. People who die, okay? Obviously, that's a loss. Obviously, that hurts. Obviously, it creates sadness and grief. But guess what? It is only our perspective that feels that way, because essentially, when people die, it's because they have fulfilled their contracts here. It's because they are no longer needed to be here to learn what they need to learn, and so they get to go back home. It should be more of a celebration of life than it should be a cry fest. But I do understand human emotions, and it does hurt to miss somebody. But if you're experiencing a lot of loss, whether it be people walking out of your life just because you've outgrown them, or people literally leaving this earth realm for the spirit realm, please know that it is not a punishment. It is not a loss in that way. It might feel like that, but again, the way that you think about things, your perception, your understanding is the only thing that makes it true. You have the ability at any time to shift your perspective on what loss actually is. And may I just say to you that if you're in a state where everything feels like it's falling apart, then congratulations, you just leveled up. Okay, so instead of looking back on all of the things that used to be and all the elements that fell apart and all of the changes that essentially make you feel like you're being punished for some reason, you're looking at it all wrong. This is a new lease on life. This is a new invitation in order for you to create something new in the space of the quote unquote loss. And I know people are having a very hard time with that right now. So this time warp, this bridge that we are entering into is going to fast forward us. It does feel very chaotic. It does feel like we are very disoriented, very discombobulated. It can make us physically dizzy. And I'm sure we're going to be experiencing a lot more dizziness the closer that we get to Mercury actually going retrograde, because it rolls over our headspace. But I'm going to say the perception of time, the perception of our reality, the perception of the quote unquote linear events that we see happen. Why am I quoting linear events? Because it is just our perception from this earth perspective that time is linear. Time is not linear at all. It spirals, and everything is happening at the exact same time in the exact same moment right now. There are different versions of you living out different storylines, different timelines, and different dimensions, that all of it is happening right now. That's why dreams are very mysterious. That's why deja vu is very mysterious, because it's a validation marker or a overlap point that you have reached in awareness or interacted with an element that another version of you in another dimension of another timeline in another soul contract has already kind of experienced. So it's that meetup. And when you have those particular meetups or deja vu points, whatever you want to call them, essentially it's collapsing the old timeline, the old storyline, the old soul contract that this version of yourself is experiencing. And so I've had multiple client sessions this week where people have said, like nothing has really changed in my life, but it feels like I'm literally a different person. Like I look in the mirror, I don't even recognize myself. That's good. Okay. That is progress. We want that. But it is kind of weird that, circumstances, situations, they haven't quite changed. There's not like this huge indicator that life is totally different, but yet we feel like we've leveled up. We feel a new energy. We feel a different vibration. We feel a different version of ourselves emerging. And that's a beautiful thing. We want to lean all the way into that, but we have to understand that in order for beginnings to happen, endings have to take place. In order for a rebirth to happen, a death has to take place. In order for creation to happen, destruction has to take place. We're very much in these topics and themes with multiple planetary energies. So for a good example, the Taurus and Scorpio axis that the true nodes of the moon are on right now. This is the last year and a half of us learning these particular life lessons. We just had Pluto, of course, that rules over death and rebirth, revival, renewal, resurrection, shift out of Capricorn energy and into Aquarius energy. Like that in itself is a huge deal. We have Mr. Saturn himself, Mr. Karma himself in Pisces energy. Okay, endings, closures, full circle completion points on an energetic, spiritual soul level. So there are multiple things taking place right now that really are emphasizing these topics and themes of endings and beginnings and death and rebirth and destruction and creation. We have to have these not so nice endings in order for there to be a space for us to begin something new, something better, something stronger, something more in alignment in its place. The only thing that we can count on is change. And change essentially means an ending of something, a death of something, a closure of something, in order for us to start something new, to bring something new to life, to initiate something new, to create something new. So please just understand that energetically and spiritually speaking, we're in a very interesting time of bridging the gap between things ending and things beginning, between things dying and things being reborn, between the destruction of the old and the creation of the new. And so a lot of the time, this is why time is altered. This is why we're living in this very euphoric state of not knowing whether we're coming or going. Like, may I remind you, it's Friday again, right? Like Groundhog Day, it's Friday again. So things are going pretty quick, and they're definitely doing a number on our mental plane, on our intellectual mental plane. Now, our higher level of our mental plane, the observer mentality, trusts the process. Even though we don't know what's going on, there's an element of trust there. And we don't know where it came from. We don't know how we got it. But we know that when we're too stuck in our ego realm, in our avatar realm, in our physical realm, and our intellect is kind of having a hard time processing all of these things, all we have to do is really kind of open ourselves up to a new level of observing and trusting our higher self and trusting our intuition to know that we have to trust the process and that everything is okay and that we are exactly where it is that we are meant to be for this particular timeline, for these soul contracts, for this particular period of evolution. So here's like a really weird ascension symptom. We may feel the big head syndrome or the bobblehead syndrome. You ever have days where you feel like your head is literally like a bobblehead and it's like way bigger for your body, and we're just like, we're all head, right? Like we're all up in there and we can't seem to escape our head. And suddenly we feel, like our bodies are just not in the right proportion, if you will. And it kind of plays into this fact that we're going to have, you ever have tall or short days? Like, I don't know, you go, for instance, I went and kind of like reached up to the tallest level of my cabinet to get my coffee mug. And I realized that like I was on my tiptoes and I was reaching an extra reach than I normally reach. And it felt like I was shorter. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like the shelf didn't raise overnight. And I'm sure I didn't shrink that much overnight. So what's going on here? And you could have it vice versa. You could have a tall day, right? Sometimes I lean up against my counters and I realize that, wow, like I feel like they're placed way lower today than they have been. So you could have a tall day, you could have a small day or a short day. You could have a bobblehead day. The point that I'm getting at is that gravity and dimensional measurement, it's all off, okay? Time is off, gravity, dimensions are off. Why is this? Well, because we've been living in a 3D realm where 3D is, dimensions, time, space. We're moving into 4D, we're moving into 5D. What does that mean? It's a level of consciousness where we get to see past just, the 3 points of matter. And we're bringing in space. We're bringing in a different set of space, we should say, different parameters of space, we should say. We're bringing in awareness. We're bringing in consciousness. We're seeing where everything is interconnected. We're seeing where, everything is just energy vibrating at a different frequency, and how the particles of what it is that we're looking at are carrying a density which allows us to actually see the physical matters that we are seeing. And so when we start kind of diving into, quantum mechanics, and you dive into consciousness and all this kind of stuff, well, this means that our normal 3D environment has to change as well. And I think this is why we're having, moments of feeling like we're taller than normal or shorter than normal, where you could, and this is a good, I'm not sure if this considers an analogy, but I'll give you this example. Many of us are so familiar with our environment that, at nighttime, when you're in the dark or whatever, that you can pretty much navigate through your environment, not bump into anything, because generally where everything is at. And you have this quote unquote sixth sense where you don't really have to rely on your five senses to navigate. There's just like a knowing that you're able to navigate your space. Well, that navigation tool is being kind of expanded upon, which means that you may be walking, like nothing may be changing your environment, but you're bumping into things like, whoa, where did that wall come from? Oh, when did the chair decide to move there? Were the cabinets always this bumped out? You're starting to kind of notice things in your physical realm that the dimensions are off. And this is just an alteration. This is just a expansion. This is just a recalibration of the new dimensions that we're actually moving into. So there is some kind of awkwardness that we're going to have to be aware of as far as gravity and dimensions are concerned until we adjust to this new vibration, frequency, and environment. And I don't know that that's going to happen anytime soon because we're moving into eclipse season. We're moving into retrograde season. It's going to be a very, very interesting time. I cannot wait to see what actually manifests out of this energy this time around. Everything's been so different since we've moved into this new calendar year, the solar calendar year, I should say, with the kickoff of Aries energies. And it's interesting to be in a space where there's this element of unpredictability, which of course, if you're still in fear-based narratives, unpredictability isn't very welcoming for you. I would really encourage you to work on those attachments because we should all be in a mind state right now where unpredictability is actually exciting. It's nothing to fear. We have to push ourselves out into new territory where we can't really depend on the things that were always there. It's a baffling kind of contradiction where, we sit around and we pray for change and we try to manifest a new reality, but yet we don't do what we have to do in order to change that reality ourselves and detach from some of the blockages and attachments that we're holding on to for dear life, which is essentially preventing the change that we've been praying for actually happening. So many people are afraid to take risks and put themselves out there and follow new passions and ideas because they don't know what to expect. And even though the comfortability and the familiarity of their current circumstances are enough to make them want to just off themselves because they don't like their reality, they would rather stay in that because it's predictable than put themselves out there in a way that they can't predict what is going to happen. So we really all have to work on being a little bit more go with the flow and fluid, especially with our perception of change. And instead of fearing the outcome of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, lean all the way into it and look at it as an adventure, as something that is exciting. Because otherwise you will be the reason of why you don't change, the reason why nothing changes for you, the reason why you can't progress and see yourself in a different light because, you refuse to look in a different mirror. And we really have to kind of open ourselves up to be a little bit more open to the uncomfortability and excitement of change. So this week is going to be interesting because we're going to be flying high, almost borderline manic, under this, eclipse energy. And then wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. 3 hours later, after the solar eclipse actually peaks, we're going to feel like we hit a brick wall. Why is that? Well, because we're moving out of the fiery energy of Aries. And although it hasn't been as productive, as initiating, as fresh as we would have liked, it's still very much revving us up in all of the right ways, even though many of them feel very uncomfortable to sit in. The initiation energy is bubbling within us. But then we move into a fixed earth energy with Taurus. And that's when we put the blinders on. That's when we kind of, become a little bit more introverted, a little bit more withdrawn. We should have tunnel vision and really focus on stabilizing the areas of our lives that are a little bit crazy and chaotic. We should be looking at where it is that we are resisting those changes, because again, fixed signs don't like to change, even though we're asking for change. We should be focused on maintaining, strengthening the structures that we have decided are valuable and are worthy of our time, energy, and effort. But many of us are going to go to the shadow realm of the extremes for this Taurus energy, and we're just going to get lazy. Why, you may ask? Well, because Taurus energy is so low and so slow that sometimes we just do not move. We become a little bit more overindulgent. We become paralyzed in our mind space. We should be taking action, but there's not a whole lot of energy to do that. And of course, Mercury going retrograde is only going to exacerbate I'm going to say, disappointment that we're all going to have with the progress that we felt we should be making. And why is that? Well, because we're not moving forward anymore. We're looking back. Okay, we didn't get a very, very large window of opportunity to make a lot of progress in moving forward. And now we're going to be at the mercy of the universe, sorting us out and putting us where it is that we need to be under this eclipse energy. And then B, having to look back at our choices, at our routines, at our relationships, at our money matters, at our ideas that we failed to bring to life. And we're really going to be reviewing what needs to be redone, what needs to be reworked, recalibrated, realigned. There's a lot of reflection that comes with a retrograde. And so, like I said, it's going to make for a very interesting Taurus season. We are going to feel heavy and weighted in our physical bodies. Taurus energy connects us to the physical realm, to the five senses, to the physical body. And it's going to be hard to get going. We're going to be low on motivation, low on inspiration. Aries energy was supposed to instill that inspiration, that excitement, that passion, that desire in us. Many of us failed to launch in that department at no fault of our own. It's just the process of purging and releasing the old in order to make space for the new that many of us got stunted in because we've been overwhelmed and discombobulated and not really sure what it is that we're supposed to be doing with ourselves. So we want to make sure that we're, tapping into the energies of Taurus season, but not moving to the extreme of it. We don't want to become so introverted that we're just like a hermit for the next month. We don't want to be so withdrawn that we become, our own darkness and creating a lot of mental health and emotional issues that, really don't need to be created. We don't want to go so low and slow that we don't move at all. We don't want to get so aware of our physical body and how heavy it may be and how hard it is to get going that we just choose not to move at all. There is balance. We have to balance everything. And the tunnel vision is a great thing if you use it correctly. We want to have tunnel vision to really examine what needs to be examined. What isn't working? What can we do better? Where do we need to do better? We need to start focusing on building and creating systems, routines, structures that are going to be strong enough to house the next chapter. And right now, we might not know what that next chapter is, but the tunnel vision is necessary in order to kind of block out all the distractions. And Lord Jesus knows there's lots of distractions going out on the global stage right now, in order to focus on bettering our own realm, creating elements of happiness and joy and pleasure and safety and security and stability in all that we do. This is about perfecting our own reality, our own happiness, giving ourselves what it is that we need, not looking outside of ourselves to get distracted for validation, for information, for support, for encouragement. This is time to be self-reliant, self-sufficient. And so we have to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to balance these particular energies. Now, this solar plexus, okay, right below your rib cage is your solar plexus. We're going through a recalibration, a realignment. There's going to be a lot of emphasis on your solar plexus. And because of that, the physical symptoms could be, hunger pains, could be nausea, could be acid reflux, it could be bubble guts in this physical area of your body. That is an indicator that you are going through a major transformation. And that is a good thing, but we do have to take care of the physical body as well, give it what it needs. Of course, digestion is definitely going to be an issue, especially throughout Taurus season, because when we tap into the five senses, what feels good to the five senses? Well, we like to eat. We like to enjoy ourselves. We like to be entertained. We like, physical touch. Sexual pleasures come to the forefront. We're really focused on what feels good. And so again, balance is needed because you don't want to eat yourself to death. You don't want to get through Taurus season and then jump into a brand new season, realize that now you have to implement a diet and exercise regimen because you spent Taurus season just stuffing your face with all the things that make you feel good. We have to have a little bit of common sense, a little bit of discipline, and a lot of awareness on what it is. I'm going to say want versus need. Okay? This is a big topic and theme with Taurus energy. Want versus need. Right now, we should be focusing on the bare basics of what it is that we need. And yes, there's a small area in order for us to indulge in things that we want because we can't deprive ourselves. But realistically speaking, this earth energy is here to provide us with an opportunity to build a new structure. So maybe you need to build a new structure around your eating habits. Maybe you need to build a new structure on physical exercise and maintaining the physical body. Maybe you need to realize where it is that your body is heavy and weighted and sore and achy, and maybe you need to make a massage appointment, get some body work done. Regardless, these are the topics and themes that are going to come at us hot and heavy here, especially at the first part of Taurus season, and especially seeing we're under the eclipse energy and the retrograde energy. We're going to be hella confused. So we're really going to have to kind of quiet ourselves, really get in touch with our physical body and give ourselves what it is that we need. You may find that you become a little bit more stubborn in Taurus energy. That is one of the pros and cons, I would say, of Taurus energy. Now, stubborn is a great thing, right? When you're standing up for things that you believe in, when you're passionate about defending yourself, your beliefs, your wants, needs, and desires, what it is that you've already created, it's a good thing to be stubborn. It's not such a good thing to be stubborn when you're resisting the kind of change that you know that you need to make in order to really see your reality morph into something lighter and brighter and something more in alignment with your soul's mission, with your soul's purpose. So again, we're going to have to balance those particular energies. And it may be hard because we're in this blah mood, right? We're in this blah, don't care, don't have any F's to give. Nope, don't care. Now, you may notice that you have one day of not giving any F's and not caring and not having any energy, and then the next day you care about everything. Suddenly your F bucket is filled up and you have new ideas, new inspirations, new motivations. That choppiness, that seesaw effect, again, Mars and Cancer, okay? It's a very not fun, difficult energy. It's really hard to stay afloat, hard to stay balanced. But let me just say, very rarely these days will you have 2 good days in a row. You may have 2 bad days in a row, but then the third good day is going to make up for those 2 bad days. But very rarely will you have 2 good days in a row. What we have to understand is we have to go with the flow. That's what water energy is all about. Now, what do we get when we move into an Earth season? When in consideration with the water planets, such as Mars in Cancer, such as Saturn in Pisces. What does water and earth do? Well, it could be muddy. If there's too many emotions, adding too much moisture to that earth, things are going to get muddy. If there's not enough emotion and just action, and that earth energy is just building and action and routine and mundane tasks and chores, then we're just going to suck all of that energy and emotion up. When you strike a balance, what happens? Things grow. When you water that earth, something grows out of it. That's what we want to establish moving into Taurus energy. And again, it's going to be hard under the eclipse energy because we have no control. and it's going to be hard under retrograde energy, because retrograde energy has us looking back, rearranging, reworking, restructuring, reorganizing things that have already been brought into existence. It makes it very hard for us to bring new elements to life. So we are going to have to kind of just understand where it is that we have to strike a balance with our emotion and with our action in order for growth to actually take place. So I mentioned that our dreamscapes are changing once again. Let me just say, the closer we get to this eclipse energy, the more buck wild our dream state is going to be. I have it on good authority that I think they're going to open the doors to the astral realm once again. We will be permitted to go back and do so. So be prepared to have an exhaustive dream state, because you essentially will be astral traveling again. And if you are elected as a warrior of the light, you will be entering into a new battlefield in your dream state. For those of you who know, you know. Those of you who have no clue what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. Just get as much sleep as you can and rest that body up. I don't know about other people, but I myself have been going through this very dramatic change in the way that I can connect to the other realms, connect to spirit, channel messages. The connection is changing, and there's a lot of reason for that. It can feel sometimes like we're being cut off from the spirit realm, and other times it feels like we can't shut the spirit realm off. And I feel like we're going to get a little bit of both, especially moving through this eclipse season with retrograde season on top of it. I feel like we are all changing the way that we communicate with the higher realms of intelligence. We are all changing in the way that we are communicating with our higher selves. And we are all changing the way that we are communicating with each other. Communication, Gemini energy, communication, Mercury energy. So we definitely want to take a look at that. And again, we have Venus in Gemini energy that Mercury rules over. We have Mercury in Taurus energy that Venus rules over. This is a mutual reception. They're kind of, taking on each other's roles, if you will. Really attempting to get our heart and our head back on the same page. And we are definitely going to be tested in a lot of different ways in order to break that distance, that gap down, and for us to kind of realign in a much more powerful way. And of course, that has a major impact when we raise our vibration and frequency on how it is that we're able to communicate with the higher realms of intelligence. So drop me a line if you're used to kind of, talking to spirit and channeling, information and all that kind of stuff. Drop me a line. Let me know if that communication style is changing, transforming, and is morphing for you. As far as the physical symptoms go, I really feel like I'm repeating myself, so I'm not going to sit here and continue to say the normal stuff like, you're going to have head pressure, you're going to have, tension in your jaw, and you're going to see your lower back kind of pop off, and you're going to have crackings and poppings in your lower extremities. You're going to feel like you're coming down with a cold. You're going to come down with a flu. All of these are normal Ascension symptoms. We've been talking about them for years now. So if you are newly awakened and you don't know what's going on with the physical symptoms, maybe this is new information to you, but many of us are far past that particular point, and I find it to be hella exhausting in repeating the same situations over and over again. We are at new levels of energy that our physical bodies have never experienced before, and so you need to be really in tune with your physical body and recognize the area that you're having pain and discomfort, and dive into that area of life and the chakra system that rules over that, and the emotions that are attached to that chakra system, in order for you to figure out on your own how to heal yourself. You should not be looking outside of yourself for anybody else to heal you. You have the wisdom, the knowledge, the resources within you. And we've been doing this Ascension crap. Literally, it's crap. We've been doing this Ascension crap for so long now that these signs and symptoms, they should be normal, right? They should be commonly thought of. They should be expected. This is what we get when the energy blasts come in and they get high. So, navigate within your own self where it is that you're at in your own healing journey. And you can tell that by how much pain and suffering you feel in your physical body. One thing I will say, though, is that the itchiness behind our ears or in our head definitely going to creep up to a new level of just driving yourself insane. And of course, with Taurus energy being an earth sign, the one way that, you should be practicing kind of eliminating some of these energetic symptoms is by earthing. Many of us are living in areas now where the weather is changing. Get your ass out and under the sun. Get your ass out bare feet in the grass. Connect with Mother Earth. Right? She has a different vibration and frequency, just like there's a different vibration and frequency coming out from the cosmos. You are the conductor. So if your energy is all over the place and you're having a hard time and you're kind of receiving the physical symptoms because of it, then it's up to you to really kind of ground yourself out, to recalibrate yourself, to be a beautiful, cleaned out conduit for the energy that needs to flow through you with grace and with ease. And so, if you're feeling some kind of thing, if you're feeling a certain kind of way, likely an Ascension symptom. That's where we're at. And we just need to continue to be real and raw and vulnerable with ourselves, be accountable, and be responsible for our own healing journey. So guys, I think that's all I'm going to cover for this week. You may notice that we're back to our 1 hour mark. So for those of you that have said to me, "Oh, I love when you rant. I love it. Even an hour isn't enough." Well, I hope that this is happy for you. And for those of you who came at me and said that I talk too much and that my sessions are too long and that I should minimize what I say, sorry to disappoint you, but I reached that 60-minute mark yet again. Anywho, moral of the story, you can't make everyone happy. You got to do what you got to do for you. And it just so happens I opened my mouth up and I've been running my mouth now for a whole hour. So now I am going to make the conscious decision to close my mouth, to leave you with all of this information, and to send all of the love out there to all of you, to each and every single one of you. I thank you so much for being here, for sharing your time, for sharing your energy. I thank you for showing up for me, but I mostly thank you for showing up for yourself. Again, listen to the forecasts, do the work, download the guides, pay attention, listen to your body, stay focused, stay peaceful, stay true to you. I'm sending you nothing but love. We'll talk to you soon.